After a fairly successful week, our panel of betting experts is back to pick apart the last normal weekend of domestic action before that busy festive period gets going. We've got tips from the Premier League, Championship and Serie A, and the one everyone's looking forward to, the FIFA Club World Cup. All that and more on today's show. Hello and welcome to the Football Betting Pod powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. Very well. How are you?
I'm great. We're recording on a Wednesday, so halfway through Champions League match day. We'll talk about Liverpool in a little bit, but watch any of the matches last night?
Yeah, the missus was out actually, so I had free reign, so I watched Girona versus Liverpool, early kickoff, and then Argyle versus Swansea in the evening, which was depressing.
Yeah. Our hometown clubs. We won't stay too long on that. Also joining us today, Daniele Fisichella. How are we doing?
Hello, hi. All good, thank you.
And Scott Thornton back again on the pod. Sam, on that Liverpool game, any thoughts? 1-1-0 away at Girona. I didn't watch the match, just caught the highlights, but didn't look thrilling.
Yeah, you'd say it was a professional performance in the end from Liverpool, but Girona had their chances and they should have scored, I think. Main burning question I have from that game, and I text Tom Winch at half-time, who's a big Liverpool fan. It was basically like, how long does Darwin Nunez get as Liverpool's number 9? He was so wasteful. Like I said, Girona had their chances. And if Liverpool didn't come away with 3 points, then in the end, it would have been on Nunez. He missed a couple glaring chances. And against better opposition, I don't think Liverpool would have won the game. And I've sung his praises in the past because, like, I love watching him when he's on it, especially when he's sprinting past defences and troubling the goalkeeper, being a nuisance for centre-halves. But when he's not on it, when he's having an off day, it's a painful watch, really, especially because everyone around him is so polished. And last night he stuck out like a bit of a sore thumb. And I would guess if Arne Slot has one request to FSG, whether that's in January or in the summer, away from the current contract situations, obviously, I think it would be a request for a new number 9. Like, can you imagine if Liverpool had someone as clinical as Diogo Jota, but someone that's available for 35, 38 Premier League games a season in between Salah, Diaz, Gakpo, etc.? That'd be a scary thought. So, yeah, that was my main takeaway. He wasn't good.
No. Daniele, any thoughts on Darwin Nunez? I know he's been a divisive figure. Is he a renegade rogue or Bambi on ice?
The finishing of Darwin Nunez is suspect, but I think we should be wary of judging players for the missed chances or the goal they don't score. There is a reason behind it, saying it's better to have a striker with a high XG and a poor finishing and a poor goals return rather than the other way around. In the 3 seasons Darwin Nunez has been at Liverpool, 36.20 XG and only 22 goals, so obviously an underperformance of plus 14. I mean, there's an old saying that he gets into the right position and if he adjusts his shooting. But, it reminds me a lot of Timo Werner when he was at Chelsea. After a lot of good scoring seasons in Germany, then he had a purple patch and really couldn't convert chances. But his XG line or his XG progression was always the same. So that means he always been that sort of striker. So perhaps fortunes might turn for Nunez soon.
Yeah, potentially.
Perhaps they don't, though, and he turns into a Timo Werner and just, he isn't the striker that Liverpool need at that level. Like, if you're going to win Champions Leagues, if you're going to, win Premier League titles, I think you need someone clinical up there. And he's not proven to me. How long's he been there? 3 years? 2.5 years? He's not proven that he can be that number 9 for Liverpool, I think, personally.
Yeah, I mean, watching Arsenal lately, I would love a striker that just...
There you go. That was my second
any
question.
Sort of chance, yeah.
I think Arsenal will take Nunez, to be fair. Huh?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. He'd play 38 games as well. He probably wouldn't get many goals, but it'd be fun.
He would be available, to be fair.
He would certainly be available, yeah. Daniele, on to you. You wanted to talk about the FIFA Club World Cup. I know it's not the most pressing concern at the moment, but the odds did come out. A draw was made last week, I think it was. And there's some potentially early value for bettors, even if there's not that much interest from general football fans.
Yes, the tournament is going to be played from the 14th of June 2025 until the 14th of July 2025 in the US, so a very World Cup feeling. And the bookmakers are treating the early odds as if it was the Champions League, basically. So the favorites are the usual suspect: Manchester City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG, Inter Milan, and so on and so forth. To find the first non-European favorite, you have to go down to odds as high as 36 or 41 in some cases. To find the likes of Al Hilal, Flamengo, Botafogo, Palmeiras, and all the non-European sides. I think there is some issues here with this thing. First of all, the timing is in favor of the non-European sides. They're going to be in the middle of the season, or they're going to reach just peak season in the summer, whereas all the European side will come out of a grueling season. You know, the Champions League final is on the 31st of May. Then, of course, there are the Nations League or the World Cup qualifiers, and then you're off to US. I would imagine any European side will need to get there at least 10 days in advance to acclimatize. There is a bit of a jet lag as well. Remember USA 1994? Took a while for the European sides to get going. Ireland beat Italy in the first game in New York. Spain drew against South Korea. It wasn't the South Korea of now. And there were some shocking results. I remember Saudi Arabia made it to the last 16 for the first time ever with a fantastic goal of Iran against Belgium, if I'm not wrong. But I think there is value in backing the likes of Flamengo, Botafogo, etc. Also because, unfortunately, money talks, and the money prize, as far as you go, the more you gain, is much more valuable for the non-European sides than for the European side that are basically taking part in this long summer tourney. So again, if you look at the likes of even Al Hilal, again, a team built perhaps to compete at this stage with the likes of Neymar, Koulibaly, etc., I think there are early prizes. Again, you can get as high as 40-1. It is each way, so even if they go into the semi-final or final, you still win. I think we're gonna see a surprise. So yeah, I think that's the time, and probably odds gonna change the longer the season progresses.
Yeah, it could mean a lot more to those teams as well. It's a chance for the Saudi clubs to be shown on the world stage. You talk about we're speaking for weeks with Nathan Joyce about the improving standards of football in Brazil. You look at Botafogo, wrapped up the title on the weekend, won that Copa Libertadores. Some good players on that team, some really good players. And yeah, they are way down the list. And looking at the European clubs at the end of yeah, very, very low. Looking at some of the European clubs, do the players have the same sort of ideas, the same feelings about this tournament as a lot of football fans do, especially within the UK, which is just, it's unnecessary, it's new, there's no prestige. You know, it's the Nations League for clubs. That sort of mentality. Well, at the end of a long season, are they going to find that motivation after playing twice a week in the extended Champions League format and busy domestic seasons? There's something there. I really, really like it. Any words on the Club World Cup, guys, before we move on to Scott's topic, which we wanted to bring about from La Liga?
Yeah, I would just echo what Daniele said. I've had a few pennies on Botafogo and Palmeiras at 40-1. Like, I just think in terms of like the Premier League clubs and the European clubs, this is a glorified pre-season friendly tournament, isn't it? Really, like to get up to speed, to get themselves ready for the league. Whereas with the other clubs, as Daniele mentioned, especially in Brazil, Saudi Arabia, etc., like they're going out there treating this as their Champions League, their Libertadores, basically to prove a point to Europe that football is much, much bigger than Europe. I know we have the kind of idea, and especially in the UK, that European football is the be all and end all, and you know that the best teams in Europe are the best teams in the world. Well, teams out in South America, I don't think they like thinking that way. So this is a case to prove a point as well. So to see Palmeiras, for example, Botafogo just won the Libertadores down at 40-1, where like City, etc., are leading the market. It just doesn't quite make sense. Now, I don't know if Palmeiras or Botafogo will win the tournament, but I think they've got a much better chance than 40-1. So there's definitely something there.
Yeah. From one competition to another. Scott, you've got an eye on La Liga this week. Atletico Madrid, huge win for them on the weekend, wasn't it? And Barcelona and Real Madrid seem to be stuttering a little bit. You think there could be an opening for punters?
Yeah, definitely. So they've gone sort of under the radar. In the summer, there was a lot of headlines about Atletico. They made some big acquisitions with the likes of Alvarez and Gallagher coming in. I think they spent around 185 million euros. They did raise some money through player sales as well, but there were some big money signings, and I felt we came into the season thinking, no, they've got a chance here. And then they sort of made a slow start. They drew quite a lot of games, and then we forgot. Barcelona obviously made a blistering start of the season. And now Barcelona have got 5 points in the last 5 league games, and Real Madrid are still playing quite well, but struggling for consistency. I think we all kind of thought that the acquisition of Mbappe would take them up a level, but that really hasn't been the case so far. And now we've got 2 games for Atletico to play before the winter break. They play Getafe at the weekend. Getafe haven't won any of their last 25 games against Atletico Madrid, which I couldn't believe. They've averaged 0.32 goals per game over that period. And then that leads on to a trip to the Camp Nou before Christmas for Atletico. So can they make it 6 wins in a row against Getafe? Well, they should do. And they'll certainly go to Barcelona full of confidence. They're playing really well. The goals that were quite dry at the start of the season, that's gone now. They're averaging 2.8 goals per game in the last 5. If they win the next 2, they could well go into Christmas top of the league, and then that really does open things up.
Certainly does. Any temptation to get them on at 7.0 in the outright bets?
It is a big price. It is a big price. Their home form is fantastic. I wouldn't be tipping it at this stage, just because even though Real have struggled in their own right, really, they haven't lost a lot of games, and Barcelona don't really lose many games either. I just think it's a big price, and they're within touching distance of the top now. If they were to win their game in hand, they'd be behind Barcelona on only goal difference. Obviously, we'll get to that stage because they'll play at the Camp Nou before that game in hand comes to fruition. But still, they're right in the mix, and that's a big price.
Yeah, still just 6.3% projected probability according to BetC, but they are projected to win this week, so things could change quite quickly. Let's get on with the bets. And Sam, from one European giant to another, you want to talk about Plymouth Argyle again?
I go over Plymouth Argyle quite a lot in this show and probably should apologise for doing so. But this weekend, another away game for Plymouth Argyle. I don't see why you wouldn't bet against them. They got Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. I've opted for, in terms of the bet, Sheffield United over 1.5 goals and Plymouth Argyle under 0.5 goals in a bet builder. You can get that 2.75 on Bet365. And basically, this is built on the fact that I will be shocked if Plymouth Argyle score at Bramall Lane. So these kind of bets are obviously precarious. The BTTS know will win to 0, especially from set pieces. We're at a level here in the Championship where defenders do make mistakes. Some games are littered with errors. Yet sometimes there is a matchup or a price in this case that just doesn't look or feel right. So this is one of them. Got Michael Cooper in goal for Sheffield United. He's just moved from Argyle in the summer, so he's been in imperious form. He's a brilliant goalkeeper, and I've said it on the pod before. I've got no doubts he'll be a Premier League shot stopper at some point and subsequently an England international. So he will be right up for this. He's kept 11 clean sheets in 19 games, which is remarkable, really. Sheffield United have conceded 2 goals in their 9 home games this season. 2 goals. No other team has conceded fewer at home in the Championship, nor the Premier League. Liverpool have conceded 3 in 7 games. No team in the whole of the EFL has conceded less than Sheffield United at Bramall Lane in 2024-25. And those 2 goals that they conceded, they came in mid-August against QPR in the first game of the season, where they conceded 2 second-half goals to draw the game 2-2. And since then, they've won 8 out of 8 games without conceding a goal. I don't know if I need to go on much more, really. We know, I've touched on it before, Plymouth Argyle don't really score goals or create chances away from home, and Sheffield United are a very, very good home team, which should probably get promoted to the Premier League this season. They've definitely got aspirations to do that. So, yeah, this was another no-brainer with Plymouth Argyle away from home.
Yeah, I did put in a warning a couple of weeks ago about your Plymouth betting. That was back in early November, I think. But that was just on the basis that you'd done 4 Plymouth bets and all 4 had lost. It was getting to like winter nil kind of territory, but 2 in a row since then.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those Plymouth bets would have been like over-under goals, etc. So here, obviously, it's a bit different. I feel much more comfortable betting against them considering the run of form they're showing. They've played 9 games away from home this season. No, 10 games, I think, and they still haven't posted expected goals total over 1.0 XG. So they rarely look like scoring. Morgan Whittaker missed the Swansea game last night. He's injured. He'll be out until 2025. Ibrahim Sissoko still injured. He'll also be on the sidelines until 2025. So that's their 2 biggest offensive weapons. And look, Leeds United, probably best team in the Championship, right? They're going to run away with the title for me. There's such a gulf between them and Argyle, both on and off the pitch, financially and, in terms of players. And if I was to pick one home team that might get close to Leeds United in terms of performance and defensive capabilities on their own patch, I think it's Sheffield United. And Argyle didn't record 1 shot against Leeds United, which is kind of funny, I suppose, unless you support Plymouth Argyle. So look, Argyle can score against Sheffield United. Stranger things have happened in football, but it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be an uphill battle. And at 2.75 for Sheffield United to also score over 1.5 goals, it looks like a pretty big price.
Yeah, it's one of your longer picks for for a single match, but you don't do it unless you feel particularly confident on it. So I do quite like it. Sam's first bet, over 1.5 goals for Sheffield United and under 0.5 goals for Plymouth when the sides meet in the Championship on the weekend. Daniele, I'm with you, and you're looking at Juventus game this weekend.
Juventus against bottom of the table Venezia. Juventus breaking more and more records, drawn 9 of the first 15 Serie A games, as they did in 65, 66 and 1980, 81. We can fairly say they should put a cross on winning the Scudetto in terms of X. Could have got too many. But anyway, playing Manchester City in the midweek. They haven't done particularly well after playing the Champions League games this season. Only 1 win, 3 draws. But bottom of the table Venezia, newly promoted Venezia, comes in town. And this should be, again, the Juventus should win comfortably, considering that Venezia have got the lowest expected goals against away from home in Serie A, a staggering figure of 17.70. Look, it's not been all doom and gloom for Juve. There are some interesting players emerging, like Francisco Conceição, whose average is more dribbles than Lamine Yamal and Vinicius Jr. I think everything hinges on Dusan Vlahovic, though. And the odds for him to score actually are quite good. I think he's at odds against, or evens actually, to score against the bottom club in Serie A. I think the premises of a Juventus playing better are there. The change of style from Allegri and Motta, it's clear, it's evident. He hasn't yet bear fruits. But now maybe in the second part of the season, things could start emerging. I think this is a game, again, where Juve, I would expect him to keep the ball comfortably and to win comfortably as well. However, Hinau's prediction tool gives Juventus a 72.6% chance of winning the game. And by the way, Venezia are the side with the lowest chance of winning a game in Serie A this weekend, have already been beaten heavily away on the road by Milan, Lazio, and Bologna. Looking at the odds and looking at the bookmakers, I'm quite surprised. Minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap for Juve pays so well, 187 with Bet365, which means if Juve wins by only 1 goal margin, basically wins, you get half your stake back, and I think you should take it at this time. Probably you'll never find such a good Asian handicap on Juve, considering who they're playing and considering their recent form as well.
Yeah, we've been speaking for a couple of weeks about Juve, the draw specialists, and whether it's time for bettors to start going straight down the middle in those 1x2 selections. Now, as you said, Dusan Vlahovic is back. Looking at some of their upcoming fixtures, have punters missed the boat with that? Maybe is it time to start back in Juve?
I think the last 2 fixtures were winnable, Lecce and Bologna, but they didn't. And the next one, I think, is also a winnable one. I guess is Monza away from home. Again, that's what we need, some Juventus performances. Juve don't shoot enough for the amount of ball they keep. They don't put enough crosses into the box. They don't have enough touches in the final third or in the opposition box. But again, things could change, and fortunes could change. It is a team that doesn't seem to have given up on the ideas of his new manager, And maybe this could be a good catalyst. And by the way, don't discard them against Manchester City. Probably you hear that after the podcast being recorded. I think Manchester City are very, very gettable. And a Juventus that gets a good results at Manchester City, basically don't lose, I think will have a spring on the steps and probably put past a couple of these Venezia sides.
Yes, fingers crossed. Daniele's first bet of the show is Juventus minus 1.25 in the Asian handicap market versus Venezia. That's at 1.87. Scott, over to you for your first bet and Premier League fixture.
Yeah, so it's the televised game on Saturday. Who did the scheduling this week as well? The Sunday night kickoffs are very, very strange. 7 p.m. on a Sunday, we've got 2 games. Very, very crazy. When I saw that, I had a double take. But anyway, Saturday's televised fixture, Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa. There's a lot of data to unpack here, so we'll go straight into the numbers. Villa are the kings of the unders this season. They rank very low in terms of shots, very low in terms of throw-ins. So we're combining the both of them back in under 29.5 shots in the match and under 31.5 throws in the match. So Villa matches, we've seen the second fewest shots in the Premier League with an average of 24.47, only a slight increase in their away games to 25. All 7 of Unai Emery's side's away games this season have seen 29 shots or less, so we're getting some decent value if we're inflating the line there in the double. Forest home matches have seen an average of 26.71 shots, but that's drastically inflated by the 40 shots in their game versus Palace, so it's just 24.5 without that game. There were just 18 shots in this fixture last season, and the 4 head-to-heads since Forest earned promotion to the Premier League have seen an average of 19 shots with this bet landing all for this angle of the bet landing on all 4. In terms of throw-ins, Villa matches have seen the fewest in the Premier League with 25.47, so well below the 31.5. There's been 28 throws or less in their last 6 Premier League away matches. So if you're still following, all these averages and the recent numbers are well below the line we've set in our bet builder here. And then lastly, Villa come into this one on the back of a Champions League match. So I looked into the data following those games. Obviously, there were Leipzig away this week, strenuous game, difficult fixture. This bet builder's landed in all 5 of their Premier League games following a European match this season. So really, really does make for good reading all the data. And I just think we'll see 2 pretty decent teams. Forest have obviously done well this season, sort of feel each other out for a little bit, and those numbers will dwindle in terms of shots and throw-ins.
Yeah, another excellent result for Aston Villa in the Champions League last night, 3-2 win away at Leipzig. But as you said, Scott, they have been struggling in these games directly, in the Premier League games directly after Champions League fixtures. They haven't won one since the sun was shining in a 3-1 win over Wolves back in September. Is it a different team? You said the bet would have landed in all of these matches straight after Champions League matches, but do these Premier League matches directly after Champions League fixtures, do they affect Villa to such a point where we can kind of throw some of this out the window a little bit and we're seeing a completely different side?
I think we are seeing a completely different side in terms of results, but they're trying to play the same way. It's the shot and throw-in data is very much in line with what we see through the rest of their games, but it was interesting to see that this bet builder had landed in all 5 following. I just think that they're definitely not as intense, which is to be expected because they've got some difficult fixtures in Europe. They've played the likes of Bayern, Leipzig as well. And I just think keeping up that level has been problematic. Clearly, the results suggest that. And I think that'll lend itself nicely to a nice boring unders bet here.
Yes, we'll certainly see. Scott's first bet of the show is under 29.5 shots and under 31.5 throws in Nottingham Forest versus Aston Villa in the Premier League. Sam, back over to you. Sticking in the Premier League, and we won't see a new manager for West Ham most likely, but they go away to Bournemouth this weekend, so maybe we'll see one next week.
Yeah, so Bournemouth versus West Ham, both teams are scoring over 2.5 goals at 1.83. Only Chelsea with 32.6 XG has recorded a higher XG total than Bournemouth's 30.92 XG. So Bournemouth have created more high-quality shooting opportunities than some of the best teams in the world after 15 games. Iraola's side sits 8th in the table, but if you look at the expected points table, the season was to be decided on the underlying data, which I'm sure the thought of alone would have some people quite angry. Bournemouth would actually be in 3rd, just behind Arsenal and Liverpool, and that's born from a -7.92 underperformance in their expected goals. So that suggests to me they're getting fairly unlucky, or they're being fairly wasteful, and they're still scoring lots of goals, they're still winning games. So I would expect that data to regress to the mean at some point. maybe not fully, but a little bit, I would expect them to maybe kick on, which, considering they're in 8th place and they are Bournemouth, they're not usually a European chasing team. I would expect them still to push up the table. So here against West Ham, I like them to score. I think they could probably score 2, and I think West Ham can muscle in on the act too in Bowen, Kudus, Somerville, who, by the way, I thought on Monday night against Wolves, I thought he was fantastic. He showed the qualities and traits that terrorised Championship defences with Leeds, picking the ball up, dragging his team up the pitch, skipping past players. I think he's a wonderful footballer, and if you add him alongside Kudus and Bowen, then look, there's goals there. But we know that West Ham at the minute, defensively suspect. I think they're quite top heavy. I think that's fair enough to say. So in West Ham games at the minute, I'm more than happy to take on some variation of both teams to score, because I think it's almost nailed on.
Yeah, it looks good. Betsy projections for this game put the goal total at 3.44 with 2.01 for Bournemouth and 1.43 for West Ham. I was going to ask about Bournemouth's form, because there are some contrasting data with XG. Just looking at their last 3 matches, they've been on obviously really good run of form. They've beaten Wolves, beaten Spurs, beaten Ipswich. Opt to have their XG in those 3 games at 7.55, but I've looked elsewhere and it's as high as 9.84. Was there any temptation to just throw in a 1x2 Bournemouth win with this and really bump those odds up?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, there really was. It's just West Ham at the minute. I don't know. There's something about them. Like, yes, they're defensively very suspect, and I would not be surprised to see Bournemouth just run out clear winners. But like I said, there is players in this team to really cause Premier League teams problems. And with Lopetegui, his job's in kind of a perilous situation. And if he galvanizes that dressing room, and if we see them kind of up their fight in the manager, which I'm not sure if they will or not, I wouldn't be overly surprised either if it ends a high scoring draw. So that was kind of my thought process. But if you look at Bournemouth as well, they've only kept 2 clean sheets in 15 Premier League games. So against this West Ham side who can't defend, and who their best form of defence is probably to outscore opposition teams at present, like we saw against Wolves, I can only see this being a game that's crammed with goals. And if you look at Bournemouth's recent games, 5 out of 6 Premier League outings have landed both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. The one match that fell short was the 1-0 against Spurs, and the underlying data there was 3.71 XG versus Spurs' 0.87 XG. So look, I just can't see this playing out. This is Monday Night Football as well. Unusually, West Ham's second consecutive Monday Night Football in the space of 2 weeks. Yeah, I think they've picked a pretty good game. So there should be goals here.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Sam's second bet is both teams to score over 2.5 goals in Chelsea versus Brentford. No, it's not. Bournemouth versus West Ham. That's a 1.83. Daniele, I've kind of spoiled it a little bit there, haven't you? From one data darling to another.
Same pick, yes. Chelsea, Brentford, both team to score and over 2.5 goals, pays 175. So the line is slightly lower than in some picks. Understandably so, because Chelsea are the highest scoring team in the Premier League, and Bournemouth follow very, very closely now, and Brentford follow closely. Now, Brentford are a curious case because they are top in Europe for home points average at home, better than any other side in Europe, 7 wins, 1 draw. Second from bottom in the Premier League, just 1 point away from home, just 1 point, same as Southampton. So where do you stand on them? It's very difficult, and I think they're going to become a dilemma for bettors in the next month or so. Also, looking at the fixtures, first they travel to Stamford Bridge, and then they got 3 home games, actually 4 home games against some of the top 5. First Nottingham Forest, then you go Liverpool, then you go Manchester City, Arsenal, perhaps not in this order, but again, until the 18th of January, they face all the top sides. So if they continue with this on form, that means that Chelsea is going to be the big winners in this title race. They're going to win 3 points on Sunday. Everyone else is going to fall at the GTEC Stadium, and Brentford probably going to go into Europe. But is it really that, or are they going to regress to mean? Let's look at some of the data. First of all, this is the highest points tally they ever had after 15 games. Our projection suggests they're going to finish 12 with 49.5 points, which is a overperformance compared to last season when they finished with 39 points, but 10 points lower than the best ever finish in the Premier League in 2022-2023. So probably the truth is in the middle. They might finish with 52 points to say that. But if you think these projections are realistic, it will mean from now on they will only average 1.13 points per game, which is a significant decrease from the current average of 1.53. However, Thomas Frank winning percent ratio, it's in his career is 45.31%. If he continues this way, then Bournemouth really finishes with 60 points and perhaps, still based on our projection, even pushes for a top 6 or top 7 finish, which could send them into Europe. Really, I think the line is so thin to strike the balance where you stand with Bournemouth. Also considering they are fifth lowest in terms of shots taken, first for accuracy, so basically every single shot hits the target, of 1 in 2, 44%. But this is not a surprise. They've always been this way because they are a data-led driven club. They do analyze data and they realize that it's better to take shots from favorable position, either inside the 6-yard box or just outside the 6-yard box, rather than taking shots for any sort of position and be wasteful. But equally, their goalkeeper has been the busiest, Flecken, in the Premier League. So they do have obviously that vulnerability. Traveling to Chelsea, will they score? I think they would. Potentially they could score a goal or two. I have no doubt about they will concede, given Chelsea, the form they're in and the way they are playing. Where do I stand on Bournemouth? I think they're going to regress to mean, and I think not necessarily every single team are gonna lose or drop points at the GTEC Stadium. But bear in mind, last season they won at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea 2-0. So I think over 2.5 goals, both teams to score 175.
Yeah, I was looking at your bet and Sam's bet, and obviously there's quite a bit of symmetry, same selection, similar sort of matches. I was going to ask the same question to you. Why won't you throw it in Chelsea in the 1x2 market for this, given Chelsea's recent form, given Brentford's Jekyll and Hyde away form? But looking through the record, Brentford have won their last 3 trips to Stamford Bridge. Is there a chance we could have an upset here?
It could be an upset if you believe Chelsea are overperforming. And I found a very interesting stat about Chelsea. Pochettino last 15 games, they collected 1 more point than in Maresca first 15 games. So there is a regression to mean potentially there. As much as the Pochettino squad had faults and was incomplete, this Maresca squad is far from perfect. But they have had a very good game plan against Tottenham, the way they adjusted the midfield as well and were able to take the chances. I think they are vulnerable to concede goals to Chelsea, which could lead to an upset. Maybe a win for Brentford, no. I can't imagine a team that's only collected 1 point away from home that goes there and collects 3. But maybe a draw, or maybe Brentford just losing by 1 goal margin, and the Asian handicap line doesn't quite cover that on the main bookmakers. So that's why I am cautious, not just to give the win for the home side.
Yeah, Brentford plus 1.5 is the Asian handicap line. You can get there just under evens, which I think I'll be on this weekend. Love an underdog. Daniele's second bet is both teams to score and over 2.5 goals in Chelsea versus Brentford. That's at 1.75. Scott, over to you for probably the biggest game on paper in the Premier League this weekend, the Manchester Derby.
Yeah, I thought somebody better cover it, and there's plenty to unpack with this game. The trials and tribulations of Man City have been well documented. Obviously, 7 games out a win. If somebody had told you that would happen even 3 months ago, you'd have said absolutely not. They've still only got 1 win in their last 9 at the time of recording. So obviously they play Juventus tonight, so that could be 1 in 10 by the weekend. It could be 2. But their home form has still been good. They've lost just 1 of their 12 competitive matches at the Etihad this season, scoring an average of 2.17 goals per game. So I really do like them to win against United here. United came unstuck last week against Forest. They dominated possession, 71% of the ball, created 2 big chances to Forest's none. They won the XG battle. But there's definitely been some teething problems. Amorim has been quite steadfast in the way he's going to play, and I think that could bite United here. long term, he obviously thinks that's the approach. That's something Ten Hag probably didn't commit to when he joined United. But it will probably be short-term pain. They look to play out from the back and press intensely, and the players just don't seem fully capable of keeping their concentration up for the 90 minutes at the moment. And City are obviously very, very adept at winning the ball high up the pitch. So I do think we'll see City catch United out in possession here. Set pieces obviously been an issue for United as well. So there's definitely ways in which City can grab a couple of goals here. Obviously, to remember, City won their last home game against Forest, the same Forest that beat United last weekend. They beat Forest 3-0 in that game. So that was City's only win in 9 as we're recording. City are sort of a backable price at 1.53, but we're going to add both teams to score as well. United have scored in their last 3 games at the Etihad. This bet has landed in all of those as well, with City scoring 13 goals across those 3 matches. United have been very poor as well on the road this season, winning just 1 of their 9 competitive away matches. Obviously, the Europa League meeting tomorrow, that could change. They've scored 1.1 goals per game in those away matches, so I do think United will get on the score sheet. They don't really have a lot to lose. They've played very badly at the Etihad in recent years and still managed to grab a goal. Rashford's screamer springs to mind in earlier this year. And I think we'll see them score, but City to win and both teams to score 2.75 definitely appeals, given United's teething problems, let's say, and City well poised to record another home win.
Yeah, the bet looks pretty good value. I was going through the recent history of the fixture. United have scored in, 7 of the last 8 meetings in all competitions. The Betsy projections look pretty good for this bet. 2.09 for City, 1.13 for Manchester United. Are you worried that we can see an upset again? United, okay, it's been a bit of a patchy start under Ruben Amorim, but City, as Daniele alluded to earlier, City looks so gettable right now.
They definitely do look gettable. I just think this is too soon in the tenure for Amorim to go there and get the win. Like, I thought United tried to play a similar way against Arsenal. Obviously, United didn't get on the score sheet there, but Arsenal have been much more solid than City generally. They don't look like they capitulate. So I do think United will get on the score sheet this time around, but City will just have too much quality for them. And for better or for worse, I don't think the manager's going to change anything anytime soon. Even with the substitutions he's making, you very much get the idea that this is like a long-term plan. And Bruno coming off while chasing a goal at the weekend, he's obviously been given assurance that he's going to get the time to change the overall style, as opposed to living on a results basis like Ten Hag was, where there was no sort of evidence of any style.
Yeah, lots to do at that club. Scott's second bet, City to win. Abbo seems to score in the Manchester derby on Sunday afternoon. Let's get on with the pod treble. Another, well, nearly missed, let's call it. It was 1 and a 3 we went on. It was pretty long odds though, so let's get one in. We haven't won one yet, so let's get one in. Sam, what's your treble bet?
Yeah, not sure if this is allowed, but I'm going to go back in on the Sheffield United Plymouth game. Just a little bit safer. So Sheffield United still over 1.5 goals. And Plymouth Argo under 1.5 goals. That's at 1.75. So I'll track that for 2 units on the pod, as well as putting up for the pod treble. This just feels like, a bit of a no-brainer. I've got the underlying data of each Argyle away day in front of me right now. 6 out of 10 Argyle away days have fallen under 0.5 XG accumulated, including 0.23 versus Sheffield Wednesday, 0.14 at QPR, 0.47 at Cardiff, 0 XG from 0 shots at Leeds, and 0.14 XG in both Derby and most recently Bristol City last time out. Plymouth Argyle don't really create too many goal-scoring opportunities on the road. And not only that, Argyle have conceded 27 goals in 10 games. So quick maths, 2.70 goals conceded per 90, which is dreadful. So I'm not sure why that would stop now.
Yeah, looks good. Don't have to go into too much detail if you covered it earlier. Scott, what's your offering for the treble?
So I'm going into Wolves versus Ipswich, and I'm backing Cameron Burgess to have a shot in the match. So both teams are at risk of being cut adrift in the bottom 3. I quite like Ipswich in the same way I like Luton last season. They're quite a plucky underdog. They seem to play pretty well. Nobody really rolls them over, but they're going to have to start picking up points. But sure, we're hoping they pick up throw-ins to give Cameron Burgess the opportunity to get his head on the ball. Wolves are conceding the second most corners in the Premier League, with their opponents averaging just shy of 7.5 per game. So we would think the Tractor Boys will get quite a few corners here. Burgess is 6'4", so obviously a big threat in the area. He had a headed effort from a corner in Ipswich's last game against Forest. I believe it was from a corner. Oh, sorry, not against Forest, but in the last game. In the last away game against Forest, he had 3. So the numbers do bode well there. And then in Wolves' last game against West Ham, the starting centre-backs for West Ham were Kilman and Mavropanos, and they combined for 4 efforts, 2 of which were headed efforts. So we should really see him get an attempt away here.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's the longest odds selection in the treble. So hopefully the other two can bring us wins. Daniele, round it off. Let's get a winner.
I'm siding with Aston Villa on the Asian handicap plus 0.25 in their trip to Forest. Now, I know Aston Villa, after Champions League games, have been very poor. Only 4 points out of 21 available. Nottingham Forest, a very strange case because they took the lead in 80% of their games. So far, only dropped 9 points, which basically is the reason why they are in 5th place. However, after conceding first, Nottingham Forest have never won. Aston Villa not quite at the highs of last season, but they managed to earn 11 points from losing position, a bigger points average recovered than last season. If you look at our in-house projection, the goal line is very low, just 2.32. So again, a double chance for Aston Villa seems logical here. And with the Asian handicap plus 25, you get the draw on your side.
Yeah, looks good. Put them all together in a treble, you'll get odds of 6.49, which we're going to be tracking for a quarter of a unit. Let's recap the bets then. Sam, what's your 2 selections?
Yes, so I'm going for Sheffield United over 1.5 goals and Plymouth Argyle under 0.5 goals at 2.75 for a unit. I'm going to do the same bet, but with Argyle under 1.5 goals at 1.75 for 2 units. And also I've got Bournemouth versus West Ham, both teams to score on over 2.5 goals at 1.83, all on Bet365.
And Scott?
So first up, it's Forest versus Villa, under 29.5 shots and under 31.5 throws at 1.8 with Bet365. We'll take a single unit on that one. Then the Manchester Derby, City to win, both teams to score at 2.75 on Bet365. We'll go 1 unit again. And then in the treble, we're backing Cameron Burgess to have a shot against Wolves.
And Daniel?
My selections, so 3 selections: Juventus, Asian handicap minus 125 against Venezia at 187. Then Chelsea, Brentford, both team to score and over 2.5 goals at 175 for the pot treble. Aston Villa plus 0.25 on the Asian handicap against Forest.
Stuff. Feel good about that treble this week. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly, only betting where you can afford to lose. Thank you, as ever, to Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniele Fisichella.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott Thornton.
Cheers.
And thank you from me. We'll be back next week.